Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parent Toolbox during COVID-19 era webinar series. My name is Mackenzie Douglas, and I'm the Director of Admissions and Outreach for Fusion Academy Scottsdale. In case you aren't familiar with Fusion Academy, we are an accredited private school serving grades 6 through 12. We offer personalized one-to-one learning instruction for our students. We have a campus in Scottsdale, and in light of COVID, we are 100% virtual with our live one-to-one online classes. I will be your host for this webinar series. Fusion is excited to be collaborating with leading experts in our area to bring you resources to build your toolbox during our time at home. This webinar series was created as a response to parents reaching out to Fusion who were seeking resources and support for their families. None of us could have ever prepared for this, so we hope to provide you with tips and tools to assist you in the COVID-19 era. Each week, we will explore a new topic to help parents build their toolbox. This is a 4-part webinar series that will occur every Wednesday at 3 p.m., starting today through May 6th. And I will fix the Zoom link so everyone will receive a new Zoom so we don't run into this technical difficulty today. We have a great guest speaker lineup for you all for the next 4 weeks. Today, we have guest speaker Fawzya Khosti, Executive Function Coach, and she will be speaking on the topic of the new normal, tips for parents working from home and homeschooling gifted children with executive functioning skill deficiencies. Next week, we have Linda Eugen, Director of Brain Education TV, and she will be speaking on the topic of mindful yoga for the brain, dynamic yoga movements to manage stress and anxiety. And this is an experiential activity for the whole family, so your kiddos are welcome to join. The following week, we have guest speaker Rachel Rubenstein, licensed clinical social worker, and she will be speaking on the anatomy of anxiety, tactics and tools for change. And lastly, we have guest speaker Dr. Paul Belgian, neuropsychologist, and he will be speaking about child management during COVID-19, and this will be a Q&A with Dr. Paul Belgian. And today we have Fawzya Khosti, Executive Function Coach. And Fawzya has extensive experience working in the field of education. She loves helping children and others reach their highest potential, and she does this by evaluating and addressing their issues holistically. Fawzya's experience includes evaluating children, adolescents, and adults to determine their social and psychological needs in order to make appropriate recommendations focused on helping individuals minimize challenges and maximize their potential. She particularly enjoys helping students develop confidence and self-esteem. As an executive function coach, Fawzya has worked with a variety of students. She has helped students with challenges such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, anxiety, minor traumatic brain injuries, improve their executive function skills, and become more successful. Fawzya will be presenting on the new normal, tips for parents working from home and homeschooling gifted children with executive function deficiencies. Fawzya, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I hope you can hear me. And I'm going to, whoops, sorry. It must be a full day for technical difficulties. So I'm gonna put my presentation up here. Okay. All right. There we go. Well, first I want to thank everyone for joining today. I hope you can see my screen. This is just my initial starting screen. So my name is Fawzya Khosti. I'm an executive function coach, and my business as an executive function coach, I help people do all the things that Mackenzie said that I do. And so I want to talk a little bit about some housekeeping before we get into the presentation. If there's a screen that you find you want to hang on to that information, feel free to take a screenshot of it. You can also send your questions to Mackenzie directly through the messaging system in Zoom, and she'd be happy to take your name and number, and I can give you a call back, and we can discuss your specific issues. I'm trying to keep this information on a more general theme, but I would be happy to answer your questions directly should you need those. So, This presentation is going to require some interaction. And at first I was not going to have it be interactive, but I think being an educator, I like things to be interactive. It uses all of our learning styles. So we typically learn in 3 different ways. We're either verbal, we're either auditory, or kinesthetic learners. So I like to use all 3 when I can. So hopefully this will come across and you'll get that information in all 3 different ways. So go ahead and take a minute, grab a pen, pencil, markers, colored pencils, paper, whatever it is you feel you need. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Once you're comfortable, you can see everyone's still getting their pens and pencils. All right, so we'll complete a short activity after each section as we move through this presentation. And then here is my business information, my address, website, and email. If you wanted to grab this information for future use, feel free to take a screenshot of it. So I wanted to start this presentation with a picture of my girls. These are my daughters. On the left in the blue is Elsa, and on the right is Emily. And the reason why I'm talking about my children in this presentation is because I have also spent many years homeschooling my own children as well as other people's children while I've worked from home. So I've actually done what you are currently doing. So I'm not just talking about this on a professional level. This is something I have many years experience doing. And so I know that it's a tough thing to juggle. So I just want you to know that this is something I'm well aware of. Just a moment of bragging. The one on the left, Elsa, is at ASU on a full scholarship, and the one on the right is in medical school. She's 21, and this is her first year of medical school, but she's very proud of the fact that she's the youngest in her medical school. So, the new normal. Today I'm just going to provide you some tips on how you can work from home while homeschooling your children who are gifted and also have executive function skill deficiencies. And I found this little quote below. We just uninstall 2020 and reinstall it again because this version has a virus. I thought that was pretty funny. So, and just on that note, humor is really important. You have to really look at everything as humorous. It can be funny. So here are the 5 tips to help you adjust to the new normal. Number 1, it's really important to practice patience, especially with gifted kids who have executive function challenges, because their development is very asynchronous. It's important to organize your workspace, and we will go into all of these in detail. It's really important to manage your time well, stay motivated, and self-care. So these are the topics that we're going to touch on today. Patience is not the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. I always think of a dog when I think of patience. They are the most patient little creatures ever. They get very excited about their food, but they're very patient while they're waiting to get their food. So I love dogs, so I always think of dogs when I think of patience. So, practicing patience. Everyone's trying to adjust to the new normal at the same time, which is what makes it so challenging for all of you right now. When we do it on our own, when we make the conscious decision to stay home, work from home, and homeschool our children at the same time, we have some time to prepare for everything. Nobody had time to adjust to this. Nobody had time to prepare for this. It just kind of was thrust upon us. And now we are all trying to adjust to the fact that, we're working from home and our kids are going to school from home, and they have to adjust to this idea of learning online while they're at home, while you're working online, and it's just so many different factors involved. So it's really important to stay focused and just be very patient, because we're all trying to do the same thing at the same time. Knowing that we can always do better when we know better, and be really forgiving, especially of yourself. As moms, I know that you're very hard on yourself. So just remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to make progress. Progress is really what everything's about, not perfection. So focus on that. And know that you have control of a lot of things. So focus on the things you can control. So here's the first little activity we're gonna work on. So write down a few ways you can practice patience with your family, with your friends, with your kiddos. Oops. I'm gonna give you a moment to do that. All right, I'm having a little technical difficulty on my end. The computer is not being responsive. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about organizing your space. Now that you've written some things down about being patient with yourself, how do you want to organize your space? Have you ever heard that phrase, have a place for everything and put everything in its place? Yeah, I think my parents must have said that a million times when I was a kid. So it's really important for kids, especially, to have structure and have order in your day, especially gifted kids who have executive function skills. One of the things I did not mention is my older daughter, Emily, the one who's in medical school, has, and she may not like that I'm talking about this, but she has a lot of executive function deficiencies. This is the kid that would leave a textbook under her bed. I can't tell you how many textbooks we've had to purchase because they were just lost. So it's really important to have a space for everything, have a bookshelf that all their textbooks go on, have, all these wonderful things need to have a place. So when you're working from home right now, everyone's working from the same space. So you can either work in an office, or, and your child can work on the dining table, or you can both set up your work on that dining table so everyone can work together. Because as your child is home, depending on their age, now I don't know how old your children are, but the younger kids are going to need a little bit more help than the older kids, depending on their needs. So if you set up your desk on the dining table next to theirs, you can help them periodically throughout, and you're kind of co-working as opposed to just having your job and their job. So having that space near each other makes it a little bit easier to help them with their homework, and then continue your job. Make sure you have all your child's materials and all of your materials in that workspace. I recommend keeping everything that belongs to the child in their backpack. So at the end of the day, have them take everything and put it back in their backpack, and then the next morning they take it out, and they can put their laptop on the desk, they can put their book or pens or pencils, whatever they need to do their work, and get out in the morning. But before dinner time, it all gets put back away. You're less likely to lose things, you're less likely to have things broken, and everything is going to look neat and tidy and be in their proper space. So make sure your kid does clean up after themselves. It's not something that you should have to do. So which one of these rooms or which one of these desks looks more like your child's desk? The one on the left or the one on the right? So if you have a child who has executive function deficiencies, probably the one on the left. The one on the right is probably more ideal. So try really hard to get some organization on your child's desk. Get rid of things that your child no longer needs. Now that they're home, take this as an opportunity to really house clean. Get rid of things that they no longer need. Get rid of things that they no longer use, and put things in their proper places so that you can find what you're looking for. One of the things that I see happen a lot when there's this much clutter is they can't find something. So what do? They go buy a new one. Oh, I can't find my book, so I'm going to go buy a new one because I can't find it and I need it right now. So it's really important to have just what you need and have it in a proper location. So I just found this picture online and I thought, wow, it's so pristine. And I thought, this is really ideal, actually. At first I thought it was kind of misrepresentation, but then I looked at it more closely and I thought, this is exactly all we need. When we're working, we need our computer, our phone, a cup of coffee, and a notebook to take notes on. That calculator probably doesn't even need to be there. So keep your desk as clean and as neat as possible. Have your children keep their desks as neat as possible. So the fewer items that are on your desk, the fewer distractions you have, it's going to make your life a lot easier. If you do need to have additional items on your desk, keep them nice and neat. Keep them structured. Have an in and out box. Okay, these are the papers that I need to work on. These are the papers that I'm completed with, or that I'm done working on. Have your pens and pencils in a space that are easy to access. So all of these things should have a place to call home. And these are just some additional items that you might not even think about these days because most of our time is spent on a computer. So let's go on to the next activity. Describe how you want to organize your new workspace. If you can look at this room right here, there's two workspaces. So if you have an office in your home that you work at, you might have a separate table or a separate desk that your child can work at so that you are within a close distance and you're able to help them should they need help. And as you can see on these desks, they have very minimal clutter. They have just, a filing cabinet, just a few items on there. It may seem really trim, but it really is what you should have on your desk, very few items. So let's talk about managing your time. And for kids who have executive function challenges, this is really a huge area that I see needing guidance. So one of the things that I recommend, especially for kids who have executive function challenges with time management, is a checklist. And you can see I have 3 different checklists on here. I have one for a morning routine, one for an afternoon routine, and one for an evening routine. The very first one for the morning routine, I kind of gauge that more for the younger child. A younger child might not remember to brush their teeth. They might not even remember to get dressed. If they're home all day, they might just get out of bed in their pajamas, go eat breakfast, and start schoolwork. So if they're missing the things that they should be doing, like brushing their teeth or getting dressed or even feeding the dog, that's one of their little chores, then it's really nice to have that checklist for them. And you may even write this down on a little note card, put it on their mirror, have them check it off as they do it, so that they can get into that routine and actually start doing these things without the checklist. For an older child, I'm going to use the afternoon routine as the example. You want to have more specific times, like from 1 to 3 o'clock is when they do their homework. From 4 to 5 is when they work on long-term projects. Maybe they practice the piano from 5 to 5:30. Maybe one of their chores is to help feed the dog and make dinner. So they can write all these things down so that they know there's specific times that they have to do certain things. So hopefully this helps a little bit. And it's really important to have a routine that is consistent and customized to the individual student. So if your child does not play the piano and they go to band practice or they go swimming or whatever it is that they do, then that's what you need to put in there. So another wonderful idea that I like to share with my clients is to have a calendar. Now this can be one of those big white calendars you put on the wall, and you can use markers, you can use colored pencils. But the thing that's really makes this special is that there's a color associated for each individual in the family. You're going to have a color for the mom, a color for the dad, a color for each of the kids, and then a color for the entire family. So as you put things on this calendar, your entire family can see what everyone's doing, what everyone else is working on. And it really helps them visualize who's doing what. And you can see on this example calendar, there's a whole lot of activities on there, but some of them have double colors, like the green and the orange. For example, on the very first line, it says swimming. So that is something that both kids do. So it's easy to see for mom and dad, oh, okay, the kids have swimming from 6 to 8 on Sunday or whatever day that is. So make sure you put everyone's activities on there so that everyone can see what's going on. And you can use an app for this as well. I've listed a whole bunch of Apple apps on here, but I personally like Google Calendar and Tiny Calendar because they're really easy to use, and they're just really nice for families. All right, another one that I really like for individuals who have executive function challenges, specifically related to time management, is using a timer. So one of the things that I like doing is having a timer for maybe 50 minutes, having everyone work for 50 minutes. And this is what I did with my kids. I said, okay, you're going to sit down, you're going to work for 50 minutes, I'm going to work for 50 minutes. And then we're going to come back, and when that timer goes off, that's when you can ask questions, that's when you can go get a drink. And it kind of simulates the time that you would be in a classroom. And so that way they can really kind of get that sense of how much time has passed, how much time it's going to take them to do a task, all of those things that are related to time management. So I would say 50 minutes working, 10 minutes, asking questions, taking a break, whatever you need to do, but definitely have some kind of time management system in there so that they know what's coming next. All right, so let's do another activity real quick. So this activity has to do with time management. And I would like you to think about, how would you like to manage your time? Do you want to are your kids not able to sit for very long? Maybe you need to do your work in 10-minute increments, 10 minutes of work, 10 minutes of break, or do you need to do 30-minute increments? Or can you do a 50-minute increment and a 10-minute break? And then look at the checklist and decide, are there checklists that you need in your life that will help you manage your time better, help your kids manage their time better? So you can also decide if you want to use a paper calendar or an electronic calendar for your family calendaring. So take a moment and a lot of times we think we know what we're going to do until we start actually writing things down and we start actually looking at the process And then we realized, oh, that's not going to work. So remember that you can adjust these once you start actually working with your kiddos. You can say, oh, we're going to do 30 minutes of this and 30 minutes of that, and we're going to write everything down the family calendar, and then you get some pushback. All right. So staying motivated is crucial during a time like this. But it's really nice to know that things will change again. I mean, nothing stays the same. So know that in a few weeks, your kids will be out of school, summer will start. In a few weeks, you'll be back at work. But over the next few weeks, you still need to stay motivated. So use this as a really fun opportunity. Do some activities that you don't normally do with your kids, or maybe you do, but you want to do more of. So sit down with your kids, play games with them, go for walks, watch movies you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe this is a time to introduce your kids to movies that you saw as a kid that they have not ever seen, like E.T. or Star Wars or something like that. Work on hobbies. This might be a really good time to teach your kids how to sew or how to knit or garden, for example, things that they would normally not do. This is a really good opportunity to teach them those things. Plan future vacations. You're stuck at home. Start using your imagination. Where would you like to go next? What does your next adventure look like? Exercise. Teach your kids the importance of exercise. Cook. I mean, we still have to eat while we're stuck at home, so maybe this is a really good opportunity to teach your kids how you cook, some family traditions, some family meals that you've made over time and they've enjoyed but they don't know how to make. Now's a good time to teach them how to make it. And then just set some future goals. What is it that you want to do in the next year or the next 5 years? This might be a really good time to talk about your kids' future goals. What do they want to do when they grow up? What do they want to do in college? What do they want to study? What are the new hobbies that they'd like to participate in? Do they want to start ice skating, for example, or something that you've never thought about before? So this is a really good opportunity to stay motivated. One of the apps that I really like to use to help kids stay on track is called Chore Monster. And it really helps kind of identify what your kids' currency is. What values, what do they value? So if your child values time with you, that would be a really good opportunity to use time with you in exchange for something. So if you want them to mop the floor in the bathroom, you could say, okay, if you do that once a week, you and I will go out for ice cream once a week. So it's a fair exchange of time for something they actually want. So look at Chore Monster, see if that's something that will help you get your household chores in order, get the kids more involved, and let them choose what they want as their reward. So it's a really nice way for you to kind of get to know your kids better too. So that might help you stay motivated too while you're all stuck at home. I found these great photos online, and who wouldn't want to cook with these cuties? Look at how cute they look in their aprons and hats. And then I found these beautiful games. I think I don't know how they got in my closet, but I have all these games in my closet. I'm sure you have a bunch of games that you love to play. Here's some nice little family walking their dog. And you can watch some movies that you've never seen before. So it's just a really fun time to kind of reset your priorities a little bit. So let's start another activity. How will you keep your family and yourself motivated during this time? What will you do? What are some things that you would like to do? So go ahead and take a moment and write those down. All right. And feel free to finish these activities at a later time. If you didn't finish them, you can always go back to them, add to them. They don't have to stop at this point during this presentation. It's definitely something you can continue on your own. So I want to jump into self-care, and modeling excellent self-care is incredibly important, especially to kids who have executive function challenges. Self-care is important as it is, but it's really important to kids because they are going to see what you do and they're going to emulate what you do. They never do what we tell them to do. They only do what they see us do. So it's really important that we model the behavior we want our kids to exhibit. So we've already talked about sticking to a routine, creating a list of behaviors or a list of things that you want your kiddos to do, and then creating a routine out of it by having them do it every day. And then doing things that you enjoy, like playing games, going for walks, teaching them a new skill, working on hobbies together. Maybe now's a great time to start scrapbooking. So all of these things are really important for self-care. But I'm going to add another few items on here as well. Prioritization is really important because life has changed for everybody. So you have to adjust to your new priorities. Your priority is no longer getting up and going to work. Your priority now is getting up and going to the living room and helping your child with their homework and working. So there's a big and in the middle there. So your priorities have not only changed, but your responsibilities have grown. And so it's really vital that you create a priority list for this. It's also really important to have a sense of humor. If we don't have a sense of humor, life gets very dark. And so if we focus on all the negative, none of us would ever get out of bed in the morning. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of dark things out there. So you have to really focus on the humor and the fun and be optimistic and have fun. It's also important to know your strengths and focus on what you can do, not what you cannot do. So that's really important. And staying positive. I don't know if you all know this, but we're kind of hardwired to kind of go that negative direction anyway. I mean, we're always struggling to stay positive. So make it a priority. Make it a daily thing to say something positive to each other, to focus on the good things that your family did and your kiddos did, and really point those things out to them. Because as children, we remember the negative things, so we really want somebody to tell us we did something well. And as a parent, it's important to ask for help. If you need it, ask for help, because we think we can do everything ourselves, but we really can't. We need help sometimes. We need advice sometimes. So ask for it if you need it. So we're going to talk about all these a little bit more in detail. So the first one is creating a priority list. And I like to do it in having things listed as high priority, things that need to get done that particular day. Medium priority, which they can wait a few days. It's something that you might want to do that week, but it doesn't have to be done immediately that day. Or low priority, where there's really no rush, but it's something you actually want to do. It just doesn't have to be done anytime in particular. So here's a list of some things that I have on my priority list. So the way I actually do it for myself is I actually put a 1, 2, or 3 next to everything. So I just make a list of what I need done, and then I write a 1, 2, or 3 next to it. But a high priority item might be helping your kids with their schoolwork that day. That's kind of important. It needs to be done right away. Or getting your job done, because that's your bread and butter. You have to get your job done. But shopping for groceries could probably wait till tomorrow. Or the laundry could probably wait till that night. So that would be how you would prioritize a little bit. And most people get this, but teaching your kids how to do this is really important. So you might want to sit down with your kids and say, okay, here's the list of the things that we need to do today. What has to get done today? Those are the things we're going to plug away on first. And then what can wait? Can this wait till tomorrow? If not, then it has to go on the high priority. If it can wait, it's not a high priority. And then maybe getting your nails done can wait till Friday night or Saturday morning. So you can kind of put things off that are not high priority, but you still want to get them done. So hopefully that makes sense. And then make sure you have a sense of humor. I just thought this was hilarious. The quarantine day 11, the chicken playing Uno. You have to have a sense of humor. You have to see the fun in everything that you do, especially with kids, because if we start having a lot of stress in our lives and our fuse is short and we're snapping and we're not being fun, it makes it even more stressful for kids because they have less control over their environment. So it's really important to have that sense of humor. Know your strengths, know what you're good at, and use them. So if you are really good at managing time, then that's what you have to focus on, is manage the time for the family, creating everything and making sure that your kiddos are taken care of. And if your spouse is really good at maybe something complete, like having fun, maybe they're the ones that have a great sense of humor. So maybe when things get a little bit stressful, they can come in and kind of take over for a little bit and give you a break. So kind of try to have that balance, know what your strengths are so that you can use them, but also know what someone else's strengths are so that you can incorporate that into your day as well. And we've talked quite a bit already about staying positive, but it's probably the most important thing that you can do during this time. Your attitude is everything. Everything and how you deal with everything has to do with your attitude. And thinking positively is going to change the entire perspective of this time in quarantine. So really think of the positive. What are the good things that are going to come out of this? Really sit down and think about, okay, the good things might be, you have a closer relationship with your kiddos, you have a closer relationship with your spouse, you spent more time at home, so you finally got to start that garden you've always wanted to have. So there's a lot of really positive things that you can put into perspective and really focus on. And hopefully that will get you through this next week or 2 or 3, however many more weeks we have this quarantine for. So ask for help when you need it, because if you have a question, someone else probably is an expert at it. And for every question, there's an answer. So you've got to be able to ask those questions. None of us are going to know everything. We're just not. And so for me, when I have questions, I consult my colleagues, I consult my friends, I consult my family, I consult anyone that I feel is going to have an answer for that question. It's really vital that you ask questions and that you ask for help when you need it, because if you don't, you're just going to miss out on that information or whatever it is that you're working on. Okay, this is Ignacio's self-care plan. I don't know Ignacio, but I love his self-care plan. And this is an activity that on the next slide, I've created an activity for you with this, but this is something that you can sit down and do with your kids that will really kind of help put things into perspective. I like how Ignacio has it split up into mind, body, spirit, people that are supportive in his life, as well as some other things that he wants to, be aware of. So if you look at it, it's split up into all these categories. But what do they mean specifically for Ignacio? That's what makes it special. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it customized. And I think sitting down and doing this activity with your kiddos is going to make them feel, one, that you're really listening, and 2, that you're learning something about them. And if you are learning about them, then they're also learning about you, because if you're doing it together, it can be really fun. So here is my little version of the self-care plan. So if you split a piece of paper, if you take a paper and you fold it in half, horizontally and again vertically, you'll come up with a sheet of paper that looks similar to this. And on one corner, you can write down mind, on another corner, body, spirit, things you want to accomplish, and people who support you. Fill that out. You can draw pictures, use color, use crayons, markers, whatever you want to do to make it yours. And I think it would be a really fun activity to do with your kids, but it's also kind of a self-discovery moment for you as well, because it might be there might be some things on there that you haven't thought about in a while because you've been too busy. And while you're doing this, you can look at what are your priorities, what's important to you, you know, is mind, body, spirit, you know, what are the things that you value? You know, do you value yoga? Do you value your, you know, exercise time? Do you value your education time? Do you value your time at church? What are the things that you are no longer participating in that you miss? Who are the people that help keep your sense of humor alive? Who are the people that are fun to be around, who are funny? You can list your strengths in here. You can list your, you know, the things that you really want to get better at in here, how you want to stay positive, how you want to ask for help when you are feeling that you need help. So all of those things can go in your self-care plan. And this is another example of you leading by example and having your kiddos do something similar because you are also doing it. You're not just telling them to do it, you're doing it with them. You're sharing part of yourself and you're teaching them how to do something that they're going to find value in. So once a wise man was asked, what is the meaning of life? And he replied, life has no meaning. Life is an opportunity to create a meaning. So take this as an opportunity to make some amazing memories with your family and create meaning in your own life. I think that's probably the biggest lesson that we can all learn from this experience. And just as a final note, I'm offering a free stress reduction hypnosis session for anyone who's interested. Actually, I have 10 spots available. So if you are interested, please go ahead and message Mackenzie, and she will give me your name and number. I can do stress reduction hypnosis or any other kind of hypnosis session if you're interested in something else as well. We can switch it up. But I can do these remotely through Zoom, and I also can do these on children and adults. So it doesn't really matter as far as age goes. But if you're interested, feel free to talk to Mackenzie or send her your information, and she'll be able to get back to you. Or you can also contact me directly through my website. There's a contact tab on the very bottom, or you can email me directly at fawzya@executivefunctioncoachaz.com. And I hope that this presentation was helpful to you.
Thank you so much, Fawzya. I really appreciate that. As she mentioned, she is offering 10 free sessions for those first 10 people who are able to snag one of those. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that. So again, here is Fawzya's contact information. Please write down her phone number, her email address, and her website. If you have any questions that you want to talk to her offline about, you are welcome to do so. Or if you want to snag one of those, you're welcome to reach out to her too. Thank you again, Fawzya. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Mackenzie. You have a great day.
Thanks. Next week, we have Linda, Director of Brain Education TV, and she is going to be doing a mindful yoga for the brain, dynamic yoga movements to manage stress and anxiety. And this is going to be an experiential activity for the whole family, so your kiddos are welcome to join. And I know there were some technical difficulties at the beginning, so I apologize for that. I appreciate you all being here and sticking with us. I will be sending out an email to you all with the link for next week, so hopefully we can avoid those issues next week. So keep on the lookout for that email. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.